refused to fund my brother's startup because he has failed 3 times before, but my parents took out a second mortgage on their home to give him the money, and now they expect me to pay their monthly installments to prevent foreclosure. I'm the oldest of 2 kids. My brother, Brian, is 3 years younger than me. We're both in our 30s now, but sometimes it feels like he's still a teenager, and I'm the parent who has to watch from the sidelines while he makes mess after mess. I work in logistics. It's boring, I know. It's not flashy, and nobody really asks me questions about it at parties. But it pays my bills, and I own my own condo, and I have a retirement fund that I actually contribute to. I've always been the safe one in the family, the one who colors inside the lines. Brian is different. He's always been the dreamer, the one with the big charisma and the bigger ideas. He's the kind of guy who can walk into a room and make friends with everyone in 5 minutes. My parents have always adored that about him. They call him a visionary. The problem is that Brian's visions usually cost a lot of money, and they never seem to work out the way he says they will. About 6 months ago, Brian came to me with his latest idea. It wasn't the first time. 4 years ago, it was a mobile dog grooming van, but he bought a van that needed too much work and then realized he was allergic to certain shampoos. 2 years ago, it was a crypto mining rig setup that he swore would make us millionaires, but he just ended up with a massive electricity bill and some hardware he sold at a loss. So when he called me and said he wanted to come over for dinner to run something by me, I already knew what it was. I had that pit in my stomach all day at work. I almost canceled, but I figured I should just hear him out and get it over with. He came over with a literal binder. He had charts. He had a printed business plan. He wanted to start a subscription-based vertical farming integration service for urban apartments. Basically selling expensive hydroponic towers to people who live in the city. He needed $50,000 to buy the initial inventory from a supplier overseas. He sat at my kitchen table, eating the lasagna I made, and looked at me with these shining, excited eyes. He told me this was the one. He said he had learned from his mistakes. He said the market research was bulletproof. I listened. I really did. I asked him questions about shipping costs, about customer acquisition, about what happens if the tech fails. He had answers, but they sounded rehearsed, like he had watched a bunch of YouTube videos on how to pitch investors. When he was done, I told him no. I tried to be nice about it. I said I was proud of his ambition, but I didn't have $50,000 to gamble on a startup. I told him I was saving for a house or maybe a wedding someday, although I'm single right now. Brian's face just fell. He looked like a balloon that had been popped. He asked if I could lend him half, or $10,000. He said, I just need a seed round to show mom and dad that I have backing. I told him that was a bad idea. I told him that he shouldn't be asking mom and dad for money either, considering they are getting close to retirement age. My dad was a teacher for 30 years and my mom worked in admin. They have savings, but they aren't rich. They live in the house we grew up in, which is paid off, or at least I thought it was. Brian got quiet. He closed his binder. He didn't yell or anything. He just looked really sad. He said, "You never believe in me. You just look at the failures, but you don't see that I'm learning." I told him that wasn't true. I told him I wanted him to succeed, but I couldn't be his bank. I suggested he try to get a small business loan if the plan was so good. He mumbled something about his credit score not being great, which I wasn't surprised to hear. He left pretty soon after that. I felt guilty, which is stupid because it's my money. But that's how it always is with Brian. I feel like the bad guy for being practical. I didn't hear much from him for a few weeks. I talked to my mom on the phone and she sounded chirpy. She mentioned that Brian was working hard on his project and that she was so proud of him for taking initiative. I assumed he had found a partner or maybe scaled back the idea to something he could afford. I honestly put it out of my mind. I was busy at work with the quarterly audits. I figured Brian was doing his thing and eventually it would fizzle out like the dog grooming, or maybe it would actually work this time. I hoped it would work. I really did. Then about 2 months ago, I went to my parents' house for my dad's birthday. It was just a small family dinner. Brian was there and he was in high spirits. He was wearing a new watch and he was talking about logistics and supply chains. I asked him how he funded the inventory. He just smiled and said, "I found some angel investors who really saw the vision." I looked at my parents. My dad was staring at his plate. My mom was smiling, but it looked tight, a little forced. I asked them if they knew who these investors were. My mom waved her hand and said, "Oh, just some business people Brian met. Let's not talk shop at the birthday table." I dropped it. I had a bad feeling, but I didn't want to ruin the night. I remember looking at my dad and he looked older than usual, tired. He didn't eat much of the cake. Things seemed fine for a while. Brian was posting all over social media about his launch. He had pictures of these plastic towers in a warehouse. He was posting motivational quotes. Then last week, I got a call from my mom. It was the middle of the workday, so I knew something was wrong. She usually only texts during the day. She was crying, like hysterical crying. I couldn't understand her at first. I had to go into a conference room and close the door. I asked her to slow down. She said, "They're threatening to foreclose. We got a letter." I was confused. I said, "Foreclose on what? The house is paid off. You paid it off 5 years ago." That's when she told me. They hadn't just found investors. There were no angel investors. It was them. Brian had convinced them that this business was a guaranteed success. He had shown them projections that said he could pay them back with interest in 6 months. So my parents took out a second mortgage on the house. A high-interest home equity loan or something similar. I don't know the exact terms, but it was aggressive. They gave him almost $100,000, not just the $50 he asked me for. He convinced them he needed more for marketing aggression. And now, apparently, the business wasn't making money. The inventory was sitting in a warehouse that Brian had rented and couldn't pay for, and the loan payments on the house were due. My mom said the monthly payment was something crazy, like $2,000 a month, because of the short term and the interest rate. They live on a fixed income now that Dad is retired. They couldn't make the payment. They had missed 3 of them. She asked me if I could help. She said we just need to cover the installments until Brian's sales pick up in the spring. He says the winter is a slow season for gardening, but it will turn around. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I asked her if she was serious. I asked her why they didn't tell me. She said Brian told them not to. He said I was a dream killer and I would just try to talk them out of it. She said they wanted to surprise me when it was a success. I told her I would come over after work. I left the office early. I couldn't focus anyway. My hands were shaking while I drove. When I got to their house, Brian was there. He was sitting on the couch with his head in his hands. My dad was sitting in his armchair looking at the wall. My mom was in the kitchen making tea, which is what she does when the world is ending. I sat down and asked to see the paperwork. My dad handed me a folder. It was worse than I thought. The interest rate was predatory. They had leveraged nearly all the equity they had. I looked at Brian. I asked him where the money went. He started talking fast. He said the shipping containers got held up in customs and I had to pay fees. And the Facebook ads were more expensive than I modeled, but the click-through rate is good. It's just a conversion problem. I asked him how much cash was left. He got quiet. He mumbled about 4,000. He had burned through nearly 100 grand in 4 months on plastic tubes and Instagram ads. I looked at my parents. I asked them what they expected me to do. My mom came in with the tea. She said, "We were hoping you could cover the monthly payments for a while, just until we can refinance or until Brian gets the next round of sales." I did the math in my head, $2,000 a month, indefinitely, because there were no sales coming. I knew that. The business was dead. I told them, I do that. That's my entire savings rate plus more. I would be living paycheck to pay for a debt I didn't sign up for. Brian looked up. He had tears in his eyes. He said, "But it's Mom and Dad's house. You can't let them lose the house." That made me snap. I stood up. I started yelling. I told him he was the one who lost the house. I told him he gambled their security on a pipe dream. Brian said, "I did this for them. I wanted to retire them in luxury. I wanted to pay them back 10 times over." I told him that was delusional. I turned to my parents. I told them that the only way out was to sell the house immediately, pay off the loan, and downsize to an apartment with whatever was left. My dad started crying. He loves that house. He built the deck himself. My mom looked at me like I was a stranger. She said, "We can't sell the house. This is our home. We just need a bridge loan from you. You have a good job. You don't have kids. You can afford it." I told her I wouldn't do it. I told her I wasn't going to set myself on fire to keep them warm because they made a reckless decision. My mom said, "Family helps family. We helped you with college." I reminded her that I paid half my tuition with student loans that I am still paying off, and that they didn't mortgage their house for my degree. The argument went in circles for an hour. Eventually, my dad told me to leave if I wasn't going to help. He said he was disappointed in my selfishness. I walked out. I drove home and just sat in my car in my parking garage for 2 hours. I felt like I was going to throw up. That was 3 days ago. Since then, my phone has been blowing up. My aunt called me and told me I was being cold-hearted. My cousin texted me saying I was rich and I should share. Brian sent me a long text saying he was sorry the business failed, but that I was punishing Mom and Dad for his mistake. He said, "If you don't pay, they are homeless. Is that what you want?" I haven't responded to anyone. I feel like I'm the only sane person in an asylum, but everyone is looking at me like I'm the crazy one. I keep wondering if maybe I should just pay a few months. Maybe give them time to figure it out. But I know if I start paying, I'll never stop. and I know Brian will just come up with another idea in a year. I'm sitting here in my condo, looking at my bank account, feeling guilty for having money. It's messed up. I don't know if I can hold my ground when the foreclosure notice actually hits. Update 1: It's been about 2 weeks since the blow up at my parents' house. The pressure has ramped up significantly. My mom has been calling me every morning before I go to work, leaving voicemails where she just sounds tired and small. She doesn't even ask for the money directly anymore. She just talks about how cold the house is because they're trying to save on heating, or how she's selling some of her old china. It's emotional warfare, and it's working. I feel like garbage every single day. I tried to get some space, so I muted the family group chat, but then my Aunt Sandra showed up at my work. I work in a secure building, so she couldn't get up to my floor, but she waited in the lobby until I came down for lunch. Sandra is my mom's older sister. She's always been the tough love one, or so I thought. I expected her to be on my side. I walked over to her, expecting her to tell me she was talking sense into my parents. Instead, she handed me a coffee and told me I needed to step up. We sat on a bench outside my office. She said, "Your parents are terrified. Your father isn't sleeping. His blood pressure is through the roof." I told her that wasn't my fault. I told her Brian did this. I asked her why nobody was holding Brian accountable. Sandra sighed and looked away. She said, Brian is trying. You know how he is." "Fragile," I laughed. I said, "He's 28. He's not fragile. He's reckless." Sandra looked at me with this weird intensity. She said, "You don't understand the whole picture. You were away at college when things got bad with him." I asked her what she meant. I know Brian struggled a bit in his early 20s with finding himself, but I didn't know what she was referring to. She changed the subject. She said, "Look, if you pay the mortgage for 6 months, I'll help them get the house on the market." I promise, but they need time to process this. You can't just let them get kicked to the curb. I told her I needed it in writing. She said, "Family doesn't do contracts." That was a huge red flag. I went back to work, but I couldn't focus. Sandra's comment about Brian being fragile and me being away at college stuck with me. I went to college when I was 18. Brian was 15. That was a pretty normal time. I remember coming home for holidays and Brian was just Brian. A bit moody maybe, but typical teenager stuff. I decided to call Brian. I hadn't spoken to him since the night at the house. He answered on the first ring. He sounded horrible, like he hadn't slept in days. He asked if I was calling to say I'd pay. I told him no. I told him I wanted to know what Aunt Sandra meant about him being fragile. I asked him why Mom and Dad treat him like he's made of glass. Brian got really quiet. Then he said, "It doesn't matter, just forget it." I pressed him. I said, "If you want me to even consider helping, you need to tell me the truth. Why did they give you that money? They knew you failed 3 times before. Why this time?" Brian took a shaky breath. He said, "Because I told them if this didn't work, I didn't know if I could keep going." I asked what he meant by keep going. He said, "You know what I mean. I told them this was my last chance. I told them if I failed at this, I was done. Like, done with life." I felt a chill go down my spine. I asked, "Did you threaten suicide to get them to sign a mortgage?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I was in a dark place. I believed in the business. I thought it would save me, and they just wanted to save me." I hung up. I couldn't talk to him. I was so angry I was shaking. He manipulated them. He held his own life over their heads to get cash. It was sick. But then I started thinking about what Sandra said. You don't understand the whole picture. It felt like there was still something missing. My parents are enablers, yes, but to risk their entire livelihood on a threat, there had to be more history there. I went to my apartment and tried to distract myself with video games, but I just stared at the screen. I realized I didn't actually know my brother. I knew the version of him that showed up to ask for money. I didn't know the version my parents saw. The next day, yesterday, I got an email from the bank. Not my bank, but my parents' bank. My dad had put me as a secondary contact on his account years ago in case of emergency, and I guess the system flagged the account as delinquent and auto-emailed me. They are 3 months behind. The foreclosure process starts officially in 30 days. I called my dad. I told him about the email. He sounded defeated. He barely had any fight left in him. He said, "We're packing up some boxes, just in case." Hearing my dad sound so broken broke me a little bit. I told him I would come over this weekend. I didn't promise money. I just said I would come over. I'm dreading it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like if I pay, I'm validating Brian's manipulation. But if I don't, I'm watching my parents drown. Update 2: I went to my parents' house on Saturday. It was heavy. The house felt different. There were boxes in the living room, mostly books and knickknacks. It looked like they were preparing for a funeral, not a move. We sat at the dining room table. Brian wasn't there. I had told them I wouldn't come if he was there. I looked at their finances. It was a disaster. Even if I paid the mortgage, they have credit card debt they racked up trying to help Brian with incidentals. They are basically insolvent. I told them the hard truth. You have to sell now before the bank takes it. If you sell now, you might have enough equity left after paying the loans to rent a small place for a few years. My mom started crying again. She kept saying, but Brian needs this home base. He has nowhere else to go. I asked, why is Brian's housing your responsibility? He's 28. That's when my dad finally spoke up. He looked at my mom, then at me. He said, tell him, Betty, or I will. My mom shook her head. No, we promised. Dad slammed his hand on the table. It made me jump. I've never seen him do that. Look where promises got us. We're losing the roof over our heads. He turned to me. He took a deep breath. He said, you remember when you were a freshman in college, and Brian was a sophomore in high school? I nodded. You remember we told you Brian had a bad case of mononucleosis, that he was out of school for 2 months? I said yes. I remember sending him a card. I remember he lost a lot of weight. It wasn't mono, my dad said. It was an overdose. I stared at him. What? Brian tried to kill himself, my dad said. His voice was shaking. He took a bottle of pills. We found him. We barely found him in time. I felt like the floor had dropped out. Why didn't you tell me? We wanted to protect him, Mom whispered. And we wanted to protect you. You were just starting your life. We didn't want you to worry. My dad continued. He said that after the attempt, Brian was in a psychiatric facility for weeks. The doctors said he had severe depression and that he felt like a failure compared to me. Apparently, I was the golden child who did everything right, and he felt like he couldn't compete. My parents made a decision then. They decided they would do anything to build his confidence. They stopped criticizing him. They praised everything he did. When he wanted to start the dog grooming business, they thought, at least he has a goal. At least he wants to live. So they funded it. And when it failed, they cushioned the fall so he wouldn't spiral back to that dark place. They've been doing it for 10 years. Every failed idea, every bailout was them trying to keep him alive. When he came to them with the farm tower idea, he was manic. He was high on the idea. And when he told them, this is my last chance, they heard, if you don't help me, I will try to die again. So they signed the papers. They literally chose his life over their house. I sat there in silence for a long time. It made sense. The coddling, the fragile comments from Aunt Sandra, the way they looked at him like he was a ticking bomb. I asked, does Brian know? Does he know you're doing this out of fear? He knows we love him, Mom said. He knows we believe in him. No, I said. You don't believe in him. You're scared of him. There's a difference. My dad put his head in his hands. We didn't know what else to do. We almost lost him once. We couldn't go through that again. I felt a mix of horror and pity, and a little bit of anger that they put this burden on themselves without ever telling me. I had been judging them for being stupid with money, but they were actually being held hostage by trauma. I asked them where Brian was now. He's at a friend's, Mom said. He couldn't face you. I told them that this changed things, but it didn't change the math. The money was gone. The house was still unaffordable. I said, I can't pay the mortgage. It won't fix the problem. It just delays it, and it keeps this cycle going. Mom started to protest, but Dad stopped her. He's right, Betty. It's over. I spent the rest of the afternoon helping them sort through papers. We called a real estate agent. We looked at the numbers. If they sell quickly, they can clear the debt and walk away with maybe $20,000. That's it. 30 years of equity gone. I drove home feeling heavier than I ever have. I thought about Brian. I thought about how much he must be suffering to manipulate them like that, or maybe he doesn't even realize he's doing it. Maybe he really believes he's a genius and they are just supportive. I don't know if I can forgive him for this. He used their love and their trauma to bankroll his ego, or maybe his illness. I don't know where the line is anymore. Update 3 things moved fast after that weekend. We got the house listed. The market is okay, but not great. We priced it to sell. I had to talk to Brian. I knew I couldn't avoid it. I called him and told him to meet me at a diner halfway between our places. He looked terrible. He's lost weight. He looked like the kid I remembered from photos when he had mono. We ordered coffee. I didn't waste time. I said, Mom and Dad told me about when you were 15. Brian went pale. He put his coffee cup down. His hand was shaking. They told you? Yes, they told me everything. They told me why they funded the business. Brian looked down at the table. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he said, I didn't mean to hurt them. I said, I know, but you did. You destroyed their financial future because you refused to get help for your mental health and instead tried to fix your feelings with a business. He flinched. I thought if I was successful, if I was a millionaire, then I wouldn't feel like this anymore. I thought it would fix me. That was the truest thing he's ever said. He was trying to buy self-worth with our parents' mortgage. I told him, the house is being sold. Mom and Dad are moving into a 2-bedroom rental near me. I'm helping them with the deposit. Brian nodded. Tears were rolling down his face. What about me? You're not living with them, I said. You can't. You need to figure this out on your own. You need to get a job, a real job, not a startup. You need to stock shelves or drive a truck or wait tables. You need to see that you can survive without them propping you up. He looked terrified. I don't know if I can. You can, I said, and you need therapy, real therapy, not just pep talks from mom. I told him I would pay for his therapy. I said I wouldn't give him a dime for rent or business, but I would pay for a psychiatrist and his meds for 1 year. That was my offer. He looked at me. I think he expected me to yell more or to cut him off completely. Why? He asked. Because you're my brother, I said, and because I don't want you to die, but I also don't want you to kill our parents with stress. He agreed. I don't know if he'll stick to it, but he agreed. The last few days have been a logistical nightmare. We accepted an offer on the house yesterday. It's low, but it covers the second mortgage and the primary mortgage with a tiny bit left over. My parents are devastated. They are grieving the house like a person. I'm over there every night helping them pack. It's sad watching them wrap up my childhood in newspaper. My mom keeps apologizing to me. She says she's sorry she put this on me. She says she feels like she failed both of us. I told her she didn't fail. She just loved us too much, or maybe in the wrong way. I'm angry at them still. I'm angry that my inheritance is gone, not that I was counting on it, but it's a safety net that vanished. I'm angry that I have to support them emotionally while they fall apart, but I'm also relieved. The secret is out. The debt is being settled, even if it hurts. The band-aid is ripped off. I don't know what the future looks like. My relationship with Brian is broken, maybe permanently. I can't look at him without seeing the manipulation, but at least I understand it now. I'm not paying the mortgage. I stood my ground, but I am paying for the moving truck, and I'm paying for the deposit on their apartment, and I'm paying for Brian's shrink. It's expensive, but it's cheaper than a funeral, and it's cheaper than losing my own sanity. I just hope Brian actually tries this time, because there is no house left to mortgage. This is really it. I'll update if anything major happens, but for now, I'm just tired. I'm going to go pack some boxes.